Symphony One's Zeno Brown and Big Sizzle the Slick Scholar. We moving sounds like they can knowledge, and that's power. I'm doing this video for my sociology 101 class on the past chapters we was reading on this half of the semester. Social classes in America, stratification of society, the differences between race and ethnicity, and gender and gender and sex and gender. Race and ethnicity is a big distinct difference between two, where race is, the physical characteristics of an individual, his facial features, the skin tone, and texture of his hair, and it's it's a description of the outer of parts of a person. And ethnicity is culture. It describes the person's socially, their perspective to the world, what they celebrate, the food they eat, how they dress, the music they listen to. All of these are the ethnicities of the person. Sometimes their nationality can describe their ethnicity. Sometimes, like take a Asian person, Far East. They can look alike, but they're different ethnicities, like Japan, or being Japanese, being Chinese, or being Korean. They may all look the same to someone who isn't Asian, but there are distinct differences in their culture. You can take a black person and they could be Jamaican, Nigerian, or Malian, or American. Yeah, you can have black Jamaican, black American, or you have a black Nigerian, and they could all possibly look the same, but definitely be from three different cultures. And for a white person, you can take an Irish white person, a German, an Italian, and they all have separate cultures in which they, for a long time, they were separate races until after World War II, where Europe, they unified into one race as white, but they had separate ethnicities. And as we get into sex and gender, it's a distinct difference between those two as well. Sex being biological, whereas male, female is describing the chromosomes, XX or XY, and you have intersexual, can't remember their chromosome setup, but it's three different types of sex: intersex, male, and female. And with gender, there's two genders. You have cisgender and transgender. Transgender goes into more detailed descriptions of one's sexuality, in which is a plethora of those. For transgenders, if you cisgender, then you are in agreement with your role, social roles that would match your sex. Your gender and sex matches when you're cisgender. And if your gender and sex differs, then you're transgender, and your sexuality would be of the LGBTQ which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, queer, intersex, and asexual. Asexual meaning that you just don't have a sexual preference. You don't, experience a desire for intimacy. And sexuality is your sexual preference. What are you desired? What do you desire sexually is your sexuality. Sex is your biological chromosomes. Gender is your social role, and your sexuality is your intimate preference. In chapter 7, we discussed social stratification and the hierarchy of social classes, especially here in America. And it just described the levels from poverty to upper class stratification. Being a member of society, one is faced with a lot of stratification, divisions, and creating a hierarchy, in which is a patriarchy, and it creates inequality for a lot of individuals. Unequal distribution of wealth, and it's a lot of interceptions, multiple reasons, and a lot of crossing paths of inequality. You get social mobility, meaning one's position is moving up and down on the social hierarchy through the different classes: upper class, lower class, middle class, upper middle class, and one can experience a lot of discrimination, which we learned in chapter 8, mistreatment based on your membership to a particular group in society, and experience explicit bias, as you see with police officers and black men, Hispanics, being pulled over at a higher rate due to a unconscious prejudgment they have against a particular group in society. We see in the video from the Madra where it talks about the wealth gap and how after World War II, the government gave a substantial amount of assistance to white people, or white male soldiers coming home from the wars, and they mistreated the black soldiers, discriminating, giving only 98%, I believe, of the assistance to the white people. This created wealth for the white people that was passed down, and the houses were passed down through the creating generational wealth to their descendants, whereas though that house is like a bank for the family where you could pull equity out, you can make investments, you can sell the house, or it's so many financial pluses to that shock wave of assistance to white people, giving them privilege. There were laws in place that secured that privilege. And until they were changed, they just had a head start. They just had unearned advantages over people of color. Even though they've gotten rid of the laws that create inequality in society racially, they still are in effect when black men and Hispanics are socially profiled and put in jail off of assumptions and stereotypes that police may have, which is attitudes towards a certain group of people that influences their actions and create further inequality, taking fathers out of their family homes, leaving single mothers to raise kids with only that income, which further creates homelessness, evictions, and further in the inequality. So in conclusion, in the past chapters, we learned the different levels of social class, race and gender being not biological, but social constructs, meaning that they're relative to a person's culture, perspective, geological location. All of these things affect one's perspective on what the roles in society of a man and a woman is. And showing the inequalities of society and its explicit biases, the unconscious discrimination towards people, as the ebook says. The ebook says that being black and transgender makes you the most targeted towards discrimination and experience discrimination in society. And that affects family structures. It affects a lot of things on a macro level, on a micro level. The everyday interactions we have with each other on a micro level, it affects on a macro level. But in these particular situations, I believe the macro level affects us down on a micro level, as the inequality is shown in the wealth gap of how for many years other groups of people in society were able to benefit off of exclusive advantages given to them and not to other groups in society, which creates this enormous wealth gap between whites and people of color in society. That was Sugar Free Knowledge with Zeno Burr.